Welcome to a realm where personal growth meets expansive spirituality and where we're not just scratching the surface. We're diving deep, widening our perspectives, and having a darn good time doing it. This is the Enlightened Podcast, and I am your host, Jen Hamilton. You'll enjoy an infusion of motivation, empowerment, and inspiration that will resonate in every aspect of your life. Expect captivating stories, heartfelt musings, and my own personal experiences. But that's not all. I'm bringing awe-inspiring individuals to the table, so get ready to meet some remarkable souls whose wisdom and stories will leave you spellbound. No topic is off limits here. Brace yourself for raw authenticity, unfiltered vulnerability, and yes, the occasional splash of explicit language. We're delving into the realms of the esoteric, mystical, and the woo-woo, unafraid to explore the extraordinary. So if you are ready to venture beyond the surface, to explore the depths of your soul, and to awaken the magic of life, if your heart says yes, then hit that play button and let the Enlightened Podcast guide you on this remarkable expedition. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enlightened Podcast. I am your host, Jen, and today I get to interview one of my beautiful friends and soul sisters, Amy. Amy is a psychic, medium, Reiki master, energy healer, women's circle facilitator, and intuitive teacher. Amy has been an empath and intuitive from a young age, but really started to explore and learn about her gifts and abilities after the birth of her second son. Amy has been on an intuitive and spiritual self-discovery journey and awakening ever since, studying under the guidance of amazing psychic and mediumship mentors to learn, understand, and grow in her abilities, which is a forever journey. When Amy reads, she brings through messages from spirit, which include your guides and loved ones in spirit. And she also uses the tarot and oracle cards to provide clarity and direction. Each session is different, and Amy allows spirit to guide her and the session so you receive what is needed at the time. Amy is also passionate about helping others through their own spiritual awakenings and opening up to understand their own unique gifts and ways in which the universe speaks to them, as she knows how confusing it can be to go through this. Amy is incredibly gifted. I know this firsthand after having many readings and guidance sessions with her. And for everybody listening to this, Amy is offering 20% off her services with a discount code, which you will find in the show notes. So without further ado, let's dive into this mind-opening and soul-warming conversation. Hello and welcome to the Enlightened Podcast. Amy Woods at 11:11. Of course it is. How are you, beautiful woman?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because we actually were going to do a recording together last year and then things just got busy. We just couldn't sync our schedules together. So we are finally here and I'm so excited for today because obviously you and I have known each other for a little while.
Yeah.
And I guess like we've kind of witnessed each other's growth, in the personal development and the spiritual development phase, and watching you like step out of the spiritual closet that you have and doing such incredible things in the world. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do. Like, what is your magic that you bring to the world?
Oh, I always find this a hard question because I feel like I'm not a label person, and I feel like you know what it's like when you're ever evolving, and yeah, you don't kind of want to have this like one label that is like this is what you do. But essentially, I guess what I do is I do psychic readings. I read tarot and oracle cards. I hold women's circles. I do spiritual development. And yeah, just anything that's kind of in that space helping other people through their kind of spiritual awakenings. And just helping people through, whatever it is they're going through, whether that's like bringing messages and guidance through from spirit to help them on their journeys at the moment. So
Yes,
yeah, that's
beautiful.
essentially it.
That's kind of the overarching thing you do.
Yeah.
And you are incredibly gifted. I've had quite a number of readings with you and like the yearly forecasts and stuff. And the way that you do your readings, you have so much integrity with that. And I've seen you you just grow and blossom into this as well. And it really speaks into, the incredible gift that you have. When did you start to realize that you had a gift where you could, predict things or connect with spirit? Like, tell us about your journey, how that even started for you.
Oh, this is a great question. And it's probably going to be a really long answer. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Uh, yeah, I think now where I am, I reflect on this a lot. It's not something that I would say I definitely just stepped into later in life, but I did feel like that's what kind of happened. But now that I reflect on things that happened when I was a kid, I was definitely very intuitive and very much an empath. So being able to pick up other people's emotions and kind of feel them in my own body. And as a kid, you wouldn't know that, like, that's what you were doing, but that, reflecting back on that now, that's definitely what was happening. And so because of that, I was very open. So if I went into a room, I could feel, if there had been a fight in there or if there had been excitement, I could feel that even if there was nobody left in the room. Or if somebody was upset, I would get really upset, but it wasn't I wasn't upset about what they were upset about. I was feeling their emotions through them. And that happens in my readings now. That is one of the main ways that I guess I pick up information through what other people are going through. But I definitely had, I used to see shadow people in my room as a kid. And I always thought that was an overactive imagination, or, I was reading certain books that would, I guess, scare me. And then I would think that I would wake up and it was just an imagination. But now that's why I'm saying, when I reflect on that, they were actually kind of spirits in my room. And yeah, I was shit scared of that. Like, it was so frightening. Always used to sleep with the nightlight on, all that kind of stuff. And then I guess I got a bit older, and I was still kind of really into like spirit stories. That was like my jam. I used to read ghost stories before I went to bed as a teenager. Also had a lot of trouble getting to sleep and staying asleep. And again, that's a reflection of, because I kept getting woken up at night. But again, I thought, I'm reading these books and these are causing like this overactive imagination. And I think I see these things, they're not really there, and just kind of close my eyes and, try and get back to sleep. But yeah, so I keep thinking about, definitely these were things that were happening, and they weren't my imagination. And at some point during my teenage years, it got too much, and I literally just shut it off. And this is a really common theme that you hear from people, is like, they were very sensitive as a kid in, various different ways, whether it was seeing, hearing, feeling, spirit, and it just got too much because I guess you don't know who you can talk to. I know we've spoken about this before, but I had a very religious upbringing. So that was another piece of, I guess, fear. It was very fear-based, Christian religion. We went to church every Sunday. Holidays, we were sent to Christian camp. I was sent to a Christian school. So that fear felt really, really real. And so at that stage, that's when I just was like, I'm not reading these books. I'm just shutting it all down. And I guess I had a number of different experiences with spirit over the years. Like, I would be somewhere and I would pick up something, or I went overseas with my auntie, and we were in a building and asleep, and I had a spirit wake me up one night, and then it happened to her the next night. And that was totally terrifying. And again, then I just shut it out. And then after I had my second son, I had, I guess, what you would call, some people call it a sleep paralysis, because it can happen in your sleep. But I was 100% awake. I just got into bed and pulled the covers up, and then I felt something sit on the end of the bed, and then I felt it pin me down, and I just couldn't move. I couldn't speak. It was almost like that I was in a cloud. Like, I could just see, I don't know, it was cloudy down the hall, and I was trying to scream and I couldn't do anything. And in my mind, I kept telling it to go away. Basically that's what I did, and eventually did. And that really was the catalyst for, like, why did that happen? because it felt so scary. And I, I really wanted to know, like, why did that happen? What was it? What did it want? And that really just sent me on this incredible spiral to, I guess, where I am today, because I I went to go and find a psychic who could tell me, like, what was this? What did they want? Why did it come and see me? What was the message? And at the time, I tried to get in touch with someone I'd had a reading with before, and they were really amazing, totally spot on. And I couldn't get into her. And I feel like this is the universe's way of, I guess, pushing me in this direction. Um, and I looked on her website, and she had, introduction to spirituality or psychic skills or something class. And I thought, this isn't for me. Like, I'm not a psychic, but I can't get in contact with her in any other way. So I'm going to this class. And I remember going and sitting there and just thinking, like, I've got to sit through this class so I can ask her at the end, like, what was this? And there was no chance during the class. Like, she's like, here's a card, read this person. And I really surprised myself with what I was able to tap into. And obviously chatted with her afterwards, and she was like, it's just a wake up call. Like, it is, you're meant to do this work. And I was like, what work? And she was like, this work. And I'm like, oh, so yeah, then that was years of me, I guess, going to different classes that were themed on different things and just building my skills from there, then starting to offer people free readings, and yeah, just built it up from there and building my own confidence, I guess. And even at that stage, I was still very much in the spiritual closet. I literally had all my cards in my wardrobe, like they weren't even on display like they are
I
now.
remember that.
Yeah, and it would have been when we met, and I was doing, was it Embodied Goddess with you?
We
Is
did
that what
Unearthed Goddess and Embodied
Unearthed
Goddess.
Goddess? Yeah. So, and I feel like that for me was really building confidence to step out of the spiritual closet. Like, I already had that stuff kind of under wraps, and yeah, my skills were building, but I really wasn't out there. I was almost living two lives. And it did really feel like that, because a lot of people that I knew didn't know that this, like, incredible change, like, I was a completely different person. I didn't view the world the same anymore. Things weren't the same for me anymore. And I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't go back. So it was just this, like, little stepping out, like putting a crystal somewhere. And then, when the in-laws come, they might see it. Like, it's putting some cards somewhere, or like, yeah, like wearing jewelry that people would think might be, a bit weird or spiritual or whatever. And just, yeah, building up that confidence to really just not care and be, yeah, in your own authenticity. And yeah.
Yeah, wow. What a journey you've been on. I'm really curious because obviously I know this story, but I'd love to hear you share it. When you started coming out of that spiritual closet, like what are some of the things that you had to essentially break through within yourself? Because that is a big leap for a lot of people to realize that, hang on, maybe I've got a gift, but because it's not essentially a physical, tangible gift where you're like, oh, I'm a really good masseuse or I can do reflexology. Like this is a gift basically that happens within your internal being using your gifts and intuition. How did you feel knowing that that was there and then having to open the door of the closet and come out? Like you said that you kind of did it in little pieces, but once you were out, was it a feeling of absolute vulnerability and exposure, or were you like, fuck yes, I'm out, let's go?
No, like, totally feeling really vulnerable, like, and exposed. Um, I I remember we've had this conversation too, like, even on my Instagram page when I first started, I was literally just, all about the quotes, and which is still what I do now. Like, I would put up cards and all this sort of stuff, but I would never show my face. Like, my page for 6 months, probably longer, was literally just, which was something that I guess when I was going through my awakening, I really loved those kind of accounts. So that's where I was heading. I was like, I loved this kind of, I need a message today to help me through whatever I'm going through. And you find something and you're like, yes, that's what I needed to hear. And that's kind of where I had started my account from. And then I was thinking eventually I'll do readings. But yeah, there was no way I was showing my face on there. And then I remember when we were doing the program, and I was just like, I just have to do it. Like, people, you were saying to me, people want to know who you are. Like, they obviously connect to your energy through what you're posting, but they want to know who, they want to see you. And I felt sick, like, showing my face, because I just felt like, oh my God, if I show my face on here, everybody will know. And I mean, only people that would find you would know. It's like, really, nobody nobody knows. And if they do, I obviously had to drop that fear. And that's really what it was for me. Like, I was just rooted in fear of almost, yeah, of being exposed. Like, what would people think? And I was really attached to what other people would think of me for doing this. Like, she's a weirdo, she's crazy, it's not real, those kind of things. And because I'm like very truthful and honest and, yeah, very authentic, and not somebody that would make things up, like, that felt like that would, yeah, I wouldn't want to receive that back, that people would think that, I was making this stuff up. And, even my husband, God love him, he doesn't really get it. And for him, like, we spent most of our relationship with me not doing this, and it was almost like this, I had to kind of come out of the closet to him as well. And so I was kind of coming out on Instagram and coming out in my home life as well, having to tell, my mum and my siblings, and my dad still doesn't know. But I feel like I'm in a place now where if the conversation led that way, I would say something. But he is very religious, and, he'll probably bring the Bible out and have some sort of, quote for me. But I feel like I'm at a place where I don't care, but I also don't want to just drop that on him either and be like, yeah, hey, this is what I do, and I don't care what you think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so back to my husband, he doesn't really get it, but he's totally supportive, and he knows that, like, he doesn't know how I do it, what it is that I do, but it just happens. And yeah, he's supportive. And I think that's all you kind of need, is like, those core people in your life aren't going to go anywhere. They're not going to think, that you're weird or crazy. They're going to support you even if they don't understand it. And that's kind of all you need, is like your core people. And you'll meet other people along your journey that you'll be able to bring in and will understand you. But as long as those, yeah, like, core people in your life are supportive, that's all you need. Like, and then you can just do whatever.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I've seen this happen a lot because, especially like you were saying that your, husband is very supportive. He doesn't get it, but he's really supportive. I've found that a lot of people, their partners might not even be supportive. Like, it might be this, because you're such a really different person, when you come out and you say, actually, I've got these gifts that I want to start to use. It's almost like there's this level of perhaps shame that can sit underneath that, because it's like, well, I wasn't this before, but I'm actually this now. I was this before and you didn't know about it, or I didn't even know about it. And this is who I am now. And I think it takes, that strength within the relationship. I always say in relationships, you're always going to each other's funerals. You're always going through the death and rebirth of new versions of each other constantly. And a conscious relationship is the ability to grow together and witness each other's deaths and rebirths, essentially.
Totally. Yeah, we are never the same people that we got together with in the first place, or that we married. And then you go through so many changes in a relationship. If you're having kids, you go through having kids, and that changes you. And this is just another thing that, yeah, you change and grow from. And he totally laughs at me. He'll come in and I'll have like, it's almost like Nutty Professor. I have like a bunch of cards and crystals, and I'll have like, something smoking or some incense or something. And he's like, oh, what sort of weird shit are you doing now? and I'm like, I'm busy, okay? And he'll just go, oh, right. And he'll leave. But it's just, yeah, like, it's really nice to know, like, even though he teases me about it. It's all kind of in love and support. And he's just like, yep, I'll just leave you to whatever it is you're doing. I don't get it, but I'll just be, watching TV.
Yeah, and it's so funny. My parents used to have this plaque on the wall at our house when I was growing up, and it said, "Don't try to understand me, just love me." And sometimes that's what we need from each other, like I'm over here like wildly single. And if like the times that I've had a partner, it's like I'm going to love you for the version that you are and whatever you're into, and I'm going to support you in your love and passion for that. I don't need to understand it. I don't need to get it, just like you don't have to be into all of the crazy things that I'm into, but just love me through that. Meet me right there and just respect me for whatever that is. And it sounds like you've got that in your marriage.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a nice little message to have on the wall.
Yeah, it is. It is. Tell us about your particular clair senses that you have. Actually,
Mhm.
can you tell us what the clair senses are? Because any sort of like fresh meat to psychic or
Yeah,
mediumship that's listening going, what are they on about?
yeah.
Obviously, like there's the different clair senses. If you want to like shortly break them down in some way.
Mhm. Sure. So I feel like when I had this spiritual awakening, that was straight kind of where I went. I went on that, went to the class, and then I was like, what are they talking about? So clair is just a French word for clear. And so it relates to your non physical senses. So the senses that you would pick up in the non physical realm. So they're all the same as our physical ones. So you've got clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. And this one, a lot of people, you obviously see in the movies and stuff, people have these visions and whatever, and it doesn't actually happen like that. It's very subtle. There are, I guess, a number of people, like it's not a huge amount of people who see spirit just walking around kind of amongst us. But that is not the majority. Most people will see something inside their mind. So it's almost like some people can see a clear kind of movie that will pop up. Some people will have flashes of an image, and other people kind of just, which is how it works for me, and it's hard to explain, is it's almost like a memory. So I can't actually see anything with my third eye. It looks black behind there to me. A lot of people can see colors and see, but the way it works is it's kind of as if I was reading a book and I am thinking about what the imagery is in my mind, and then that's creating a picture, and I can get it quite detailed through that way. So that's clairvoyance, which is connected to your seeing. We'll go up, and so there's claircognizance, which is just clear knowing, and people find this one very difficult because you just know stuff, or something just drops in like a thought or an idea, and you don't really know where it came from. This one pops in for me when I'm reading for people. I just know things about them. I can't tell you how I know things about them. It's just there as if I have already known this person. But that only happens when I'm connected into them and reading. So then you've got clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So there can be your emotions that you feel, so you can feel other people's emotions, or you can feel like your senses as if, I guess, you're touching. So that kind of cold shivers, that's clairsentience. Sometimes it feels like, is somebody behind me? That's kind of how I feel it when I'm doing mediumship work, is I just feel as if somebody is standing like really, really close. So that's clairsentience. And you've got clear tasting and clear smelling. Again, that can be, you would taste, it would be like you're tasting chocolate or something, and then you would say to the person, I'm tasting chocolate at the moment, and they're like, yes, that was my grandma's favorite treat after dinner. And that's kind of how it works, is you would just get, it's so subtle, and you just get a little bang of this information. The same with smelling. Sometimes I'll smell cigarette smoke, and nobody smokes here, there's no smoke here, and you're just like, and it feels like it's inside your nose, but again, it's external to you, but coming through your senses. I think that is, there's also, I say, people say clairtangency, which is, if you pick up an object, being able to kind of like psychometry, read that item. So tangency is touching. And so a lot of people work that way, where they'll ask you to bring, somebody, one of your loved ones, pieces of jewelry, and they'll hold on to it, and they will be able to get information through that piece of jewelry. So yeah, basically all the senses that we have normally. And
Clear
hearing, thank
audience.
you. Yeah, clear audience again. So for some people, again, that does kind of drop in as if you have heard something outside of you, but that is not for the majority. It's almost like you hear something inside your voice. It can be like your inner dialogue, which is how it works for me. It's like I hear myself talking in my head, which sounds crazy, but it's not something that I would say. So there'll be messages that will come through that way. Often, if you have that kind of gift, you will pick up through songs. You can either hear songs, or you will just really be, if you could be driving and you'll hear a song and you'll go, oh, that song has a message in it, the lyrics, you hear those. And so that's, yeah, definitely would pick those ones up. So I feel like my strongest one was always the clairsentience, was that feeling, that kind of empathy. But as I kind of grew through learning my skills, I did really feel like there was that clear hearing and clear knowing were my main ones. And then the others will drop in and out depending on, I guess, how spirit wants to get that message through. Like they could just say to me, smoker, but they'll make me smell the smoke instead. Yeah. So that's how those kind of work. And again, they're really subtle. Sometimes you may be somewhere and you just get a big hit, but now when I'm working, it really is just like paying attention to the tiniest little messages that come through those ways.
Yeah. And so obviously people come to you for readings, and that's sort of like instant permission basically for you to tune in, because permission's such a big part of doing this work as well. I have
Mm-hmm.
heard of people in the industry that basically they might get a download of some sort, they might get a sense, or they might hear something or feel something, and they give it to the person that they've received it for, or they think that they've received it for, without their permission to pass it on. What's that like in the industry? Because I think you and I both know of these kinds of people. And where do you sort of stand with that? Are you really firm on the fact that everyone needs permission to be able to tune in? Because it could be very personal.
Yeah, definitely. I am really strong with this. Just ethically, if you are sitting next to somebody, why should I know about their life and about what they're going through if they haven't come to me and paid for me to do a reading or asked me to? It's almost like just going into your house and finding your diary and reading it. Like it's just not on. It's not, it feels like that's a big breach of privacy. And there also is a bit of a gray area because, like you say, and this tends to happen to a lot of people if they start doing spiritual development, you're opening yourself up, and then all of a sudden, all of these things are dropping in, and you want to be helpful. Like most of the time, it comes from this place of wanting to be able to share something that's come through. So it's not in this place of, oh, I know this stuff about you, and going from there. But it really is like, oh, and somebody I've learnt off recently calls it psychically snooping or something like that. Like, you're yeah, psychically curious. Like you shouldn't be opening yourself up to just reading people randomly. And so if somebody's come to me and they've asked for a reading, that is permission. They've paid for me to do that. There's an energy exchange. Yeah, definitely when people go through spiritual development, they get excited about, oh, I can do this. And, I want to tell this person this message, but you should usually just keep that to yourself, go and write it in a journal. I have had a number of instances where one, for instance, was I went to the hairdressers and I was getting my hair cut. I think I've told you this story before. And there was an elderly lady sitting next to me. And I was sitting there reading a magazine, minding my business. And then this is kind of how it happens for me, is like, whoop, someone's with me. Someone's right, it's like I'm standing right behind you as close as I can without touching you, like right in your bubble. And straight away it started saying this is her daughter, and then giving me this big message. And so I always have a pen and paper in my bag and I wrote it down. And so I left it there, and then I thought, okay, well, if I keep thinking about it, it's like, and feeling that she's there, you know, she's not going away, and I'm going to give this message to her. And the lady was leaving and her daughter was still kind of with me. And so I thought, okay, and she kept going, like, she's telling me, tell her, tell her, tell her. And that's kind of what it was like in my head, is like, she wouldn't leave me alone and I could just feel her there, tell her, tell her, tell her. So I went over to her and I asked her permission first. And I said, look, this is what I do and your daughter has come through. Would you like to receive a message from her? And I asked her permission, and she said, she just started crying. She was like, yes. So I gave it to her and I said, here you go. You can go off and read that in your own time. And so she did. And I was sitting in the chair, and she went away. And then 10 minutes later, she came back, and she was just kind of like standing there. And, she said that was the most loveliest thing that anybody had ever done for her, because I guess her daughter knew that she wasn't going to go to a medium or go to a psychic and try and get a reading. And there are some instances where I really do know that message has to get through, but they're very rare. And I will always ask permission. I have asked permission and the person was just like, no, I'm not into that. I was like, okay, cool. And that breaks that connection of their person kind of being attached to me as well. And so as soon as you deliver the message, they'll go. Or as soon as I said to that person, this is what I do, and somebody's come through really strongly and they're like, no, don't believe in that. I was like, okay, no problem. They're gone. But for me, sometimes if I don't deliver that message, they would just keep hanging around. I'll come home and I'll go about my day, and then I'll just keep hearing the whisper, like the message, whatever it was that they had told me, will just keep playing over and over and over. So while I guess I've just kind of contradicted myself, I wouldn't normally do that, but there are some very small circumstances where I would, and I would ask. But if you are just new to spiritual development and really excited that you're able to do this, write those things in a journal, because it's not something that you should put on someone else until you're super experienced. And it's also, I guess, displaying that you can't turn it on and off. And that is another thing about boundaries with spirit. So, like I just said about being in the hairdresser, I was actually turned off, like my door was closed. But sometimes they get through because they know there is no other way or other time that they will ever be able to get through. And when you do this work, it's almost like you have a light kind of on and they can see you and they're drawn to you. So there are, small times when I will do that. But mostly if I'm walking around going about my day, doing the grocery shopping, I don't want like everybody's people or like tuning into their worries and concerns or feeling their emotions. It's too much. It's really draining. And it's just being snoopy. Like, why should I know about what these other people are doing or going through unless they've come to me? So boundaries, I guess, are important, and just being really ethical and thinking like, how would I feel if somebody came up to me randomly and said this? And would I accept that? Would I feel good about myself? Yeah. I have had a friend of mine come and say to me, she was doing a meditation class, and again, somebody just came up to her at the end and didn't ask permission, just blurted out a message to her, and it really upset her. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry that happened to you. Like, this person is obviously really excited about their spiritual development. They're in meditation. They're very open. You were near them. They've received something. But it's never okay for them to just go up and blurt it out to you. Like,
Yeah, I think it's so true. And I think, people do get really excited when they got the gift and they feel as though it's their duty to pass that on.
Mm,
But like you said, like there's got to be boundaries. There has to be permission. And I think I definitely know personally of people that are like psychic snoopers as well. And I truly feel that that holds karma as well.
mm,
That if you're intentionally snooping on someone, whether it's an ex-partner or a family member or someone that and you just want to like have some inside information, whether it's actually from spirit or whether it's just more of an ego thing. I mean, that's a
mm.
separate topic in itself, but I truly feel like there's karma involved if you're intentionally trying to snoop because you've got a gift and you don't have that person's permission, because like you said, like you get information coming through. It's probably stuff that you're not privy to. However, it still comes through when you have these senses open. I love what you said, that you intentionally open and close that door, because if you're constantly open, not only are you constantly receiving messages, but that's a lot of energy coming into
Mm.
your field as well, which then you've kind of got to wash all of that off at the end of the day. It could be quite heavy, like when you're constantly open. I mean, you're just a portal inviting bits of shit in, really.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. With with you starting to discover what your senses were, and realizing that, hang on a second, this is a gift. Tell me about how you were received to, like, in your when you were doing psychic development classes and you're starting to use these, and then you realize like that validation's coming back in and people are going, wow, that's really correct, you're spot on. What does that feel like for you?
I feel like it's just really validating. And now that I'm where I am on my journey, I f- validation is beautiful. Like, you know that you are on the right track. And I'll ask people when I'm doing readings, like, does this make sense? How does that fit in for you? Does that resonate? And that's more just so you know you're on the right track. But yeah, just I felt like a weight had lifted off my shoulders because I was always picking up this information and I would be like, why am I so angry this afternoon? Or why, because I'd just been picking up other people's emotions or the emotions that were in a room, or, feeling like if you walked into a party, you knew what was going to happen before it happened, or who to not go near, or like spidey senses is what I call them. It's like, yeah. And when I was, started to read the cards, and for me at first it really just was the feelings. So how both emotional feelings, but also so say if I was connecting to somebody who had passed from a heart attack, feeling pain in my chest, that kind of thing. So it was all physical, but yeah, emotional and kind of ailments, I guess, or things that might have happened to that person. And it just, it was really nice and validating to be feeling like when I was tuning in and I would saying, oh, my heart is hurting, like it's racing. I don't know why. And that's what it was, a place of. And then you kind of build up your messages, because each of our messages and how we connect are different. So, for chest pain, for one person might be, oh, they had a heart attack, but for somebody else, it's like that's heartache. It's
Mm.
they've just gone through a breakup. And I'm using that as an example because you can feel that in both of those ways. Sometimes I will feel in kind of like a little twinge in my heart, and then I will feel incredibly sad. And then that to me will be, okay, this person is going through a breakup. So it's learning your own messages. I'll often see somebody holding a cake and I'll know that that is a happy birthday to that person. But I know of other people that will see specific flowers and that means happy birthday for them when they're reading. It's just you kind of building up your own index with spirit of how they communicate with you and what those messages mean. But yeah, it was definitely really validating because I felt like, okay, I haven't been crazy all my life feeling these things. They actually like, oh, okay, this is why, like, I actually am psychic. And everybody is, to an extent. Some people are kind of born and very open and can just use their gifts straight away. And then other people, like myself, I guess, have to learn how to use them. And so it's a dial, like all of your senses are a dial. Some of them, might be off, some of them might be a little bit on, and you can work at them and, be able to kind of like tune them in more. And sometimes it's kind of like learning an instrument. Some people are really already gifted, and everybody can go up to a piano and press a note and a sound will come out. But some people can just play really beautifully, really easily without much practice or without many lessons. And other people need to have more lessons and practice until they're at a point where they can, I guess, be happy that they're able to control what they want to come out. And that's kind of what intuition and psychic skills are like.
And you answered. I basically, my next question was going to be, you must be psychic. But does everyone have psychic abilities? Obviously, you just answered that because you're psychic. But so everyone does have that already within them.
Yeah, everybody does. It's that gut feeling when you go into a situation and you think I shouldn't be here, and then you leave, and then you hear something has happened there, and you just think like, lucky I listened to my gut, or whatever you want to call it, like your internal guiding system. Something was telling you. Some people it can be in their stomach, some people it's a thought in their head like, I shouldn't be here. Maybe it's like you feel anxious when you go somewhere and you're not normally an anxious person. Everybody has the ability, or everybody is intuitive and psychic. It's just how we are made. But like I said before, it's some people are just naturally built that way and in this lifetime ready to just do that work. Others, I guess, are, but need to go on a journey to get there. And that's kind of more where I'm coming from. And then others feel interested in it and just want to work on it themselves, like to help them in their daily lives. Like, just because you're doing spiritual development doesn't mean you have to come out the other end being somebody that reads for other people. It can be about you tuning into your own guidance and just getting guidance for the day, getting guidance for the month, for the year, where it is you're going that day, or who you might be meeting, or who you need to stay away from, that kind of thing. Like, it's really useful just in your daily life.
It's so true, isn't it? Because we've all got, the ability to tap in. What would you say to someone that's listening to this going, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I get messages through, I have these feelings, or I can hear things. And, I've kind of been curious about, developing this. What would you say to someone that's almost like psychic curious?
Mm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that you can explore that without even having to go to a class. But I would recommend just going to a class, because I feel like for me, that was where I learnt so much about my own abilities through watching other people. So we might be in a class of 10 or 12 people, and you'd go around the room and everybody would read. And then afterwards I would, because this is the kind of person I am, I'm like, need to know how everything works. and I'm like, well, you said you saw this, like, how did you see it, and how did this come through for you? And then and just like interviewing these people about how it works, so I could kind of understand better how my own intuition worked. But there's definitely lots of ways that you can do that without even going to a class, but there are heaps of classes out there, and you may find that you go to one and you just don't gel with the person who's teaching it, you don't gel with the other people there, then just find another one. Not every teacher is for you, and not every person in the class is for you. So you can learn something from somewhere else. But there's things like automatic writing, which are really good. So sit quietly, make sure you have some time and space where you're not going to be disturbed. You can write a question down, or you can think the question, and then just let yourself write and see what comes through. That is you connecting to your intuition, or to your soul, and seeing what comes through. You can get cards. You don't need to do a course to be able to read cards. You can pick any ones that you like. There's literally so many different themes, animals, if you like those, fairies, dragons, mermaids, all of those ones that you can choose. and it has a little booklet. It tells you how to do it, but essentially it's the same thing. It's being quiet in your own energy, making sure you have that kind of quiet space and time, asking yourself a question or the universe or whoever you connect to, spirit, shuffling them and pulling a card and then seeing what the answer is. And that's your answer. And
Mm.
sometimes we get answers that we don't want to hear at that same time, um, or that you don't understand fully. And
Mm.
so just you can have a journal and you can and write those in there and let it sit. It will make sense at some time if it doesn't actually make sense right then. But meditating is another way. You can do that with music, you can sit in nature, you can sit in quiet. It's really just tuning out all the noise and letting yourself kind of tune into yourself.
Mm, I love it. And that's been such a big one for me as well. And I think I've been working on developing psychic and clairvoyant gifts myself. And I looked at potentially doing a class, and I ended up just having a one-on-one mentor as well, someone that, I'd known for a very long time. And she said to me, she's like, are you ready to do this? And then I had another friend of mine who's a psychic medium who I actually found through doing a bit of self-discovery is that I had a block against actually stepping out and doing this because I was worried about what he would think of that. And when he said to me, he's like, when are you going to start doing this? I was like, oh, hang on a second. I've got your permission to do so. And he's like, why would you think otherwise? And that was just my own stuff. It was my own
Yeah.
judgment of self and all of the stuff. So it was unraveling all those layers. And since then, whether it's, doing card readings to people or intuitive messages, the more you do it and the more you back yourself and the more that you trust yourself to do it, the more it just flows, I find, and I
Mm,
actually did a card reading for this particular male friend of mine who's a psychic medium the other day on a live video that he was running on Facebook. And he like the look like because
love
the
it.
camera was on me, so only I could see his face. And he was just like shocked. He was like, oh my God, like bang on. I was like, huh. Like all I did, you connect to the cards and you say, can you please provide me with the message that this person needs, or, whatever, you generally
Mm,
say to yourself with that. And it provided exactly the message, like the answer. I didn't even know what questions he had. He said them internally. So
yeah.
all I asked for the cards was to provide him the message with me as the channel. And it did that in
Mm,
such an incredible way. And this has happened over and over again that you kind of can't ignore it either. You kind of like it happens so often, whether it's for yourself or whether you're reading for another person, that it's almost like the spirit's like hello, like you are getting confirmation continually here. How much more do you need to know? Like trust yourself and back yourself. And I think a lot of people have a lot of confidence issues around that. I personally, at the time of recording this, I'm not out there publicly saying I do this. It's something that I do. It's an offering, but it's kind of like in the back end.
mm,
Um, and it's interesting because there's a lot of times I refer to, watching you come out of the spiritual closet in this way, because there's so many other things that, that I do as far as work wise. And there's always, intuition that comes in. And especially when I'm working with a client for coaching, or whether it's especially past life regression therapy, I can see and feel like it's like we're both in the journey together. We're in this open container where, I've got full permission to be in their energetic field. And it's kind of like we are traveling on a journey together. So that already exists there. But, as far as going, oh, I can just do card readings or, intuitive readings for people, there's still, for me, that's still baby steps there. For me, it's still just like, okay, what is it? Like, where do I actually want to take this? Like, where do I
mm,
want to expand into? Because I love what I do and I love the path that I'm on. And it's almost like this is a beautiful additional tool that's come along.
yeah.
But also, I totally get what you mean. Like, there's that fear of like, oh, is she doing this now? And like, this is a witch wound that a lot of women hold, or it's like, oh, I thought you were doing this, but now you do this. And one of the other things that I want to speak into, which I wanted to circle back on something that you said before,
Mhm.
because we talked about, having permission to pass on a message. But for me, obviously, like knowing, the gift that you have, I think it's really important to actually honor someone else's gift and not go to them and be like, can you give me a message about this? Like that is an exchange
Mm,
of energy. And it should be whether it's a financial exchange or an energetic exchange, I am so, I guess, passionate about this. And I think you and I had a conversation in the very, very early days. And I'm saying not only should you be charging for this, but you need to be putting your prices up around this as
Mm,
well. Because, like, yes, you got your training wheels on to begin with, and you want to, build up your clientele and build up, testimonials and stuff. But such a big part is, actually receiving money or some sort of energetic exchange for the work that you do. Tell us about your journey with that.
oh, it's a good question. And in the beginning, you do feel like, oh, am I even good at this? Why would I be charging money? And there was still an exchange, because yes, you are, I guess, still reading for people, because one, it's building your own confidence. Two, it's getting those testimonials. And three, it's their feedback to you, so you know you are actually on the right track and you're doing a good job. And so once I was in a place where I guess I was happy with, being as spot on as I could be, and not feeling like, oh, did I just make this up? Because it can feel like that sometimes. It just, things come in and you're like, have I just started daydreaming? That's really what it feels like. And you just have to trust and follow, yeah, where that takes you. And so then I did start charging. And then I had a few lovely people who I read for saying, you charge like nothing for the stuff that you do, for what comes out, for how much time you would put in. Because at that stage, I was doing basically photo readings. So somebody would send me a picture of them, I would connect into their energy, and then I would do cards and do the reading. I would take a picture of the cards and I would write up, like, a few A4 pages of what came through, because I would sit there and I would just channel, I would just write everything that came through in a notepad, and then I would type that up. So I think I was like charging $50 or something, and it was probably taking me, oh, I don't know, hours. Literally, like, it would take me probably an hour to actually do the reading. I would sit there and connect and make sure everything came through and I got it all out. And I was really conscious of not wasting the person's energy and time. Like, I feel like I wanted to do a really good job. This person's paying me for this. I want to give them everything that they need at that time. And I still do feel like that. I always feel like, if somebody has trusted me to give their hard-earned cash to me for guidance or whatever it is that they are going through or they need at that time, like, I want to do a really good job and I want to give them what it is that they need. Um, and I guess your point about the energy exchange. So, and this is another boundary thing, and sometimes I really can't help it happening, but I pick up tone and messages through people's text messages. So if somebody texts me and it'll be like, oh, hey, how are you, blah blah blah, sometimes I can tell straight away, is like, this person is not asking me how I am. I'm waiting for them to ask me
They
what it
want
is they want
something.
to know. Like, I'm good, what do you want, essentially. Like, that's kind of how it feels. But it's, and I know they don't know that, but straight away I can pick it up. And it's, and I wouldn't say that I have been used. It's more like, I would totally say it's my own learning journey and how I navigated that. Um, and some of my best friends would never ask for a reading. Um, they just don't. They'll even put, if I do, I guess every couple of weeks I'll do a few like free card readings, and sometimes if they really want something, they'll put it up there, and they know I don't choose them because I'm choosing them, like spirit chooses them. So, and then I'll message them like, is everything all right? Do you want some, do you want to know something? And they're like, it's fine, I would never ask you. But
Mm.
so I definitely have beautiful people like that in my life. But yeah, there's also people, and I get it, because everybody is going through a lot. And if I have the time and a message comes in and it will take me 3 seconds to respond, I will, but I don't always. And I don't make it a point of being that available as well, because I do feel that people, um, end up relying on you for something that they could make a decision on themselves, or they could tune into their own inner guidance. And, you know, it's almost like they're relying on you to make these big decisions, and that's not what I'm here for. And
Mm,
yeah, I got so drained. I would just be really tired from doing that all the time and being so available, and just, I guess, doing this work, you want to help people. And so it's hard to just cut that off when you know and you can feel that that person really needs help. But there's a point where they can't rely on you for that all the time, and where they kind of just need to help themselves, or
mm,
where they can't just, that's all your friendship has turned into, is like, you help me all the time.
yeah.
And I'm sure you have dealt with that as well, because you help people. Um, and it was something that I really realized about myself. You know, people say, "Oh, when I speak to you, you have the best advice," and I've always heard that my whole life. And maybe part of it's me, but maybe it's channeling. It's a bit of both. It's just like, I know what to say when it needs to be said to a
Yeah.
certain person when they ask you something, or even in a conversation. And that's just part of that channeling, is, yeah, like, it's just dropping in and coming out. And people find that really comforting. And I think that's what's hard for them to, you know, you're a sense of comfort and help to them.
Mm.
So
Yes,
yeah.
I've definitely had that experience, especially with coaching. You know, some people, and they're not necessarily, close friends, because close friends don't ask that. And with a close friend, we've got an equal exchange of energy anyway,
Mm,
because usually if they're in my corner, I'm in their corner. You know,
yeah.
we do support each other in those ways, and there is no expectation for, monetary exchange, or,
Yeah.
transactional exchange. However, I've had people, in my DMs, hey, I'm really struggling with this. What should I do? What you should do is book in for a session with me, because
Mm,
this is my work. This is my livelihood. This is, I'm happy to support people in whatever way I can, or I'll refer people on to the abundance of free resources I have available. There's so much stuff that I've shared on my Instagram page that's got, almost like so much coaching stuff within it,
mm,
or, mindset stuff, or the videos that I have created and continue to create for my social media will be all of that, so people have access to that, because I feel as though, like, that is my gift to the world as well. And not everyone can pay for coaching sessions, and not
yeah.
everyone can pay for a psychic reading. I get it, but you've also got to have, respect for the person's gift, and the fact that that is their work as well. And with friends, like, I know that, especially if I'm channeling something, if a friend's going through something, I'll know when I'm channeling. I kind of like just look off and stare into the
Mm,
distance. I'll be holding my phone, doing a voice note, and it all just comes out of my mouth. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. I don't know where that came from, but that's obviously what you needed. And they're like, wow, that was incredible. And they do the same for me as well.
yeah.
It's not like, oh, you need to book in for a session. We just we have that, I guess, that code of conduct between friendship, where
Yeah.
we have access to each other's gifts, and that's beautiful. But I wouldn't go to my, my massage therapist and, be like, oh, can you just, give me an hour massage or something?
Yeah.
Like, that is her gift. That's what I'm paying her for,
Yeah.
because that's her livelihood as well. And so I think, there's got to be, there's respect both ways, not just for
Mm,
yourself, but any sort of psychic medium out there, or anyone with an intuitive gift, has to have permission to enter the other people's space to be able to pass on a message. And likewise, someone coming in going, I'm going to pay for your services. I think it's I think it's a big deal.
yeah. Yeah. And we're the same. Like, I've obviously paid for your services, you've paid for mine, or we've done a swap.
Yes.
And, you know, the money's going to circle and flow, and who knows where that's landed. But we respect each other enough to be like, you know, this is what you do, and I want to pay for you. I'm not, you know, going to ask you to do something free for me,
Mm,
because yeah, I just wouldn't do that. And I hope that people don't do that. But yeah, like you, there are times when you feel like, okay, this person's really struggling, and I can help them in 3 seconds, and you do. And then you kind of have to put up a boundary after that and be like, okay, well, that was almost like that was your freebie now. You know.
mm,
And like you said, you have so many free resources that people can access that can help them to get to a stage where they can then, if they need more, they can book in for any of your services. And it's the same. I started, I think I have like 15-minute readings, which are really affordable, and it's just a small recorded message. And it's essentially, I guess, what I do with the free readings, but a little bit longer. But it's not expensive, and it's not, 45 minutes or something. And it's for those people who really need something, but either can't pay for it, for a longer reading, and kind of need something right now. So that is something that I set up just to kind of help those people. And then for me, there's that energetic exchange. It's like I'm not doing that for free. And yeah, I guess it's not all about money either. But it's the exchange, and that's really important. Is my time and energy that I give somebody, is they're giving something that's equal in return, because otherwise you do get really burnt out, aside from having to do, I guess, other cleansing and grounding work all the time when you do this work. But if you were just to constantly, provide people with your services with nothing or little in return, you'll be burnt out really quickly, or sick.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, you get sick.
Yes, that's a big one. That is a big one, isn't it? Now, obviously, we'll link to everything in the show notes, and we'll link to Instagram, your website. So how does it look? So people just go onto your website, book a reading with you.
Yeah, so there's a few different types of readings, like the length of time. Some are video readings. Like I said before, there's a short recorded reading. So I would just tune into your energy and, bring through or channel a message that is around 15 minutes in length. I do have readings where I can still do those photo readings where I'll, tune into your energy and I'll send you something written. And I feel like there's, I guess, a level for all of the people that want to access that is kind of what they're ready for and what they want to pay for. I do distance reiki work as well, or kind of other energy things. But yeah, if you just go onto the website, all my services are there, and then it's linked to any available appointments in my calendar, so you can just book everything through there.
Perfect. And we will link to that in the show notes. And Amy Woods, before we wrap up, I have one final question for you.
Yes.
And to you, what is the meaning of life?
Oh gosh, what is the meaning of life? Do you know what the answer to this question is? I feel like
I have my version of it. It's a subjective perspective.
it is so subjective. The meaning of life, like if you want to just tune into that, is to experience love and joy and to grow and just, like get out everything out of it that you can. I feel like that is the meaning, is like, what can you experience and transform, and how can you do that with love and joy?
I love that. Amazing. Amy, thank you so much for being part of the Enliven podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enliven podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.